They put up a tall fence, covered with black tarp and topped by barbed wire, surrounding Lake Colette at the center of Juniper Valley, so that no one could see what they were doing. 2 of the 3 local cop cars were stationed 24/7 at either end, one to the east, one to the west. This all went on for 3 days while some unknown official body did what they needed to be done. Then, overnight, the black barbed wire fence was gone, replaced with the normal chain link variety. A few middle school kids dared Kevin Witter to apply a pair of wire cutters and sneak in. My little half-brother knew Kevin. The kid claimed to have seen unmarked vans and a bevy of sunglass-wearing government agents with automatic weapons surrounding a team of scientists in hazmat suits, dragging a carcass of a monster out of the water. The monster had 10 legs, the skin of an alligator, and the body of a squid, or the body of a shark, or matted fur, or feathers, or teeth, or whatever. That's what I heard from him. Of course, it changed per telling, and to be honest, it was all bullshit. I'm guessing Kevin were either chickened out before doing the deed, or else was picked up by the cops as soon as he approached the fence or something. At the end of the 3 days, some early risers in Juniper Valley reported seeing 3 unmarked cars heading east on Skylark Road, towards the highway and the Air Force Base on the Palmdale Airport. Whatever government agency was operating behind the blockade, searching the lake, they were gone without a trace by the time the sun was up. And whatever they found, they weren't telling. The cops were clueless. All they told us townfolk was that, due to bacterial infestation, we were not to swim the lake until further notice. I swear to God, I will never swim in that fucking lake ever again. And I hope to God they killed them all. I stayed in Juniper Valley during the summer with my father. He and my stepmother loved it there, loved the isolation and the small town lifestyle. Though I would hesitate to even call Juniper Valley a town. It's more of an unincorporated cluster of ranch-style homes planted like a pimple amongst the Sierra Pelona Mountains. In the 90s, the population of Juniper Valley and the surrounding hills was a staggering 800 or change. There was one general store in town, one gas station, one church, and one dirty little inn with a bar restaurant in it. Anything else one would need would be found in Palmdale, a 45-minute drive east, through miles of gridded power lines and golden flatland, dotted with silos and scrap metal. The town resembles a bowl, with Lake Colette at the basin, and streets and houses arranged around the edges, along the slopes of the surrounding hills. In fact, calling Lake Colette a lake is also stretching things a little bit. It's more of a sag pond, right on the San Andreas Fault, which cuts straight through Juniper Valley. During droughts, Lake Colette would drain to a glorified puddle, a mossy marsh of waist-high weeds. There were quite a few rainy years during my neighborhood. Lake Colette would remain a proper body of water then, even in the midst of a hot, dry summer. I'd look out my bedroom window at the lake, below the dim circles of light cast by the 2 street lamps on Skylark Road, pitch black like a tar pit. On moonless nights, it seemed depthless, and it felt as though it could be some kilometers deep well. A black hole. It could suck me in, swallow me whole. But I grew up. My months in Juniper Valley became skull-crushingly boring. My dad and my stepmother worked, my half-siblings attended a summer program at their school, and my friends were 70 miles away. The nearest library was almost as far, and the rabbit-eared TV only picked up 3 channels. Local access from Palmdale, the Bible channel, and assorted infomercials. It was my step-grandmother who told me about the Willfell Animal Sanctuary. She went to church with a lady who ran the place, a retired park ranger named Kathy. The shelter was a non-profit funded solely by donations, with an all-volunteer staff. Kathy owned an acre of hillside land off Skylark Road, just west of town, a 15-minute walk from my father's house. I was 13 the first summer I volunteered at Willfell, and went back every summer after. They loved me there. And by they, I mean the only two staff members, Kathy, an earthy woman in her 60s who functioned as CEO, manager, accountant, and primary caretaker of the animals, and Jacques, a 27-year-old autistic man who cleaned cages and walked dogs as a part of a government-subsidized program. And I fell in love with the animals. There were about 60 of them, homeless dogs and unwanted cats. There were 2 huge kennels in Kathy's large backyard, built by her sons, one for dogs, one for cats. Further back, rabbit hutches. And at the far end, against the sturdy fence, a tiny stable that housed an elderly racehorse and a fat little donkey. When Pounds in Palmdale and Lancaster received animals they had no room for, they'd give them to Kathy. She'd drive her rickety old windowless van east to the highway, then come back hours later with new furry cages. Sometimes, she'd function as a poor man's dog catcher. Agencies would direct her towards residences from Juniper Valley to Acton, asking her to remove starving, nearly hairless dogs from gardens and pull emaciated cats out from under cars. These were under highway strays, abandoned on the 14 by individuals who no longer wished to be pet owners. However, it's not really about that. It's about what happened that first summer. The summer I met Jane Gittorns. Jane was a friend of Kathy's, a retired Navy nurse who worked as an at-home caregiver and took in homeless cats. She visited Willfell at least once a week, sometimes bringing large bags of cat food. Jane was a rough lady, tanned, sinewy, wrinkled beyond her years. Only ever seen wearing stained wife beaters and baggy fatigues. She'd never married, had no family I knew of, and seemed to prefer the company of cats to humans. Kathy considered her an asset. She'd take in 20 cats at a time, accepting responsibility when she had no more room. She owned a half-acre a few miles southwest of town, off a shabby 2-lane road called Oak Tree Lane. Oak Tree Lane snakes between gray-green hills before dead-ending deep in the Angeles National Forest. Rusting mailboxes stick out of the ground like flags at the head of the dirt roads, leading to remote ranches and groves and campgrounds. Jane's cottage was at the end of one of these dirt roads, in a little clearing carpeted with knee-high weeds and prickly shrubs, surrounded on 3 sides of gently sloping hills. She'd take me there sometimes. There were always cats everywhere. Cats inside and out, cats on the sofa, cats sitting on top Jane's washer, cats sunning themselves, stalking field mice, and barflies, sleeping and fighting and screwing all the stuff. I'd spend hours at Jane's house with her cats, helping her clean up and clean litter boxes, cuddling kittens from the occasional litter. Jane liked me. Since she obviously felt needed for human companionship, I took this at the highest of compliments. Every summer, on the first day I'd see her, Jane would break out into the biggest, brightest smile that Kathy swore she reserved only for me. "You like me, Marlena," Jane would say, as I stared out the window of her 1979 El Camino. "You can cut through anyone's bullshit and see through their soul. That's why you love animals so much. Your standards for souls are higher than most." The earthquake hit the winter of my junior year. I remember walking in the middle of the night, roused by the thud of my precariously placed math books falling off my desk. The mild shaking lasted about 3.5 seconds. Then I realized I'd experienced an earthquake, rolled over, and fell back asleep. My dad, his family, and Juniper Valley were hit a bit harder. Positioned at the San Andreas Fault and close to the remote epicenter, structural damage was rather extensive. And as the area was experiencing a rainy winter, Rocky mudslides closed roads and isolated remote dwellings. The mess had been cleared up by summer, but I noticed broken sandbag barricades and new violent cracks along Skylark Road. Lake Colette looked more robust than I'd ever seen it, but was surrounded by a chain-link fence. The water had taken on a greenish tinge, and hosted islands of thick, yellowish scum. For now, it was closed to the public. I returned to Kathy in the Willowfell Animal Sanctuary, with a driver's license this time, which secured me a new responsibility. Kathy's windowless van still hadn't broken down, but she was sick of driving it all over the valley. So she handed me the keys. I enjoyed it at first, rambling through Golden Plains until I saw the boxy developments of Palmdale or Lancaster, rescuing filthy, unloved creatures from the clutches of abusive owners or uncaring bureaucracy. Jane Catorns had all but disappeared. Her last nursing change had passed away, and she was rarely seen in town. Only at the general store, Kathy told me, and very rarely. I think Kathy and I were the only people in Juniper Valley who noticed her absence. I missed Jane. I missed the way her face lit up when she saw me and the warm summer afternoons I spent in her backyard. I called her landline once. It had been disconnected. Soon, the cats started appearing. My third day back, I was sitting in Kathy's office when I received a phone call from a talkative old lady in town. There was a cat in her backyard. It had been sitting in the lower branches of her oak tree for hours. I think it's someone's pet, she said. It's too chubby to be a stray. This, in and of itself, was not an extraordinary event. Everyone in town knew Kathy ran a shelter and would infrequently call her in lieu of an animal control when an unknown animal became a bother. Sometimes said animal would be a neighbor's lost pet, or other times a runaway that had wandered from Palmdale. Kathy always made an effort to find the owner. Rarely, a feral abandoned highway stray would make it to Juniper Valley. These poor creatures were always half-dead things with matted fur and exposed, pustule-dotted skin. They usually had to be euthanized, or died before a local vet got the chance. At first, I assumed the calm, well-groomed, and gray and white short hair I found in Old Lady's oak tree was the former, a townie's escaped house cat. I tried to coax the thing down with a can of tuna. No dice. It wasn't remotely interested in the food. It just stared. Black, depthless eyes locked onto something that wasn't me. Tuna can in outstretched hand, looking like an idiot, for 5 frustrating minutes before giving up and going to the van to grab Cappy's net. When I got back, the cat was gone. I never saw it again. It bothered me all night, though. It was like the cat had been messing with me. And it happened again and again. Homeowner after Juniper Valley homeowner, calling Willowfell and asking us to remove a cat from their property. It was always cats. Always different cats. I don't think I ever saw the same cat twice. The homeowner always insisted he or she had never seen the animal before, and they never had collars. They always appeared well fed, if not overfed. Their fur, though not show quality, was thick and intact. It became very troubling. Juniper Valley had a population of 842. It was located 45 minutes from the nearest town and surrounded on 3 sides by hills and forest. Everyone knew everyone else's pets, and the sudden appearance of so many unaccounted for cats was very mysterious, to say the least. And these cats were not like any cats I've ever seen before. They liked freshwater. I'd find them sitting in fountains and kiddie pools. They didn't seem to like the sun. They come out at night, or else to be found in some shaded dark enclosed space. They were very silent, never hissing or even meowing for that matter. They were really, really good at getting in and out of places. I found one curled up at the back of Alay's car. Though she admitted she left the door unlocked, the physical act of opening and closing the door should have been impossible for a creature with only paws at its disposal. They were smart, supernaturally smart. At times, I fell under a disturbing impression that the cat was taunting me. I'd be setting up some trap or extending a net. The cat would just sit there, calm and cool, watching intently. They'd be there for a minute, which I'd have some semblance of hope I'd finally catch the thing this time, and then a cat would dart out of my grasp, or just vanish the moment I turned back. The weirdest part was that once or twice, the cat stopped running off and actually looked at me. I could swear it was actually laughing at me. And they all shared the same icy, emotionless black eyes. I wish they didn't remind me so much of the empty eyes staring from the euthanized corpses I saw at Willfell. But it was a couple days later that finally I caught one.